He wanted to control the narrative. This had nothing to do with him getting on with an NFL team. What do you think about this theater drama queen stuff with Colin Kaepernick and his workout session, air quotes?
Well, I mean, for Colin Kaepernick, his career now and his
Kaepernick. God, I always mess that up.
His legacy is better for him, I think, as a martyr. Him not getting a job plays to his narrative of the story he's played for the last 2.5, 3 years. You know, here's the thing. If a guy can play still and a team wants to take a chance of signing him, great. You know, welcome back to the NFL, but you've got to be able, I think, to play. The problem is that he should have just gone along with the program. You know what I mean? Just done the workout where it was supposed to be and just done your own thing instead of making yourself look like who would want that on their team at that point? You know what I mean? Do you want a guy who's that much problem, that much hassle, on your team? A guy who's that diva-ish to be on your team. Now, does he have hard feelings towards the NFL over the past 2.5, 3 years? I'm sure he does. You know, if I felt I was blackballed by an organization, I'd probably have strong feelings to them still to this day. You know, and then we get his lawyer coming out and saying that there's 2 teams interested in him, and maybe there are, because let's be honest, a 80% Colin Kaepernick is better than some of the play we're seeing with all the backups playing these days. In the NFL. The problem is, I just think that no team's really going to take a chance on him, and I wouldn't bring him in to be a backup because then there's way too much cloud around your team. If you bring Colin Kaepernick in, he's got to be a starter, but I don't know what team that would be for right now. You know, I just don't see it. The guy's been out of football for 3 years, and you know, in those 3 small years, the game still changed a bunch, and he was kind of tailing off in his career after when he left the NFL. So I don't see it. I'm ready for it to go away again. I've had enough of Colin Kaepernick news for now.
All right, let's move on to the NFL around this week. We had a great game playing the homer card with the Colts. Colts against the Texans went into Houston and couldn't quite get the job done. One might say, well, we don't have anything to point to, so we're going to point to the fumble recovery by Darius Leonard that was not reviewed. Of course, there was no clear and present evidence that could have been reviewed or should have been reviewed. But that's kind of where we're at. But, man, it just goes to show you that there's 2 teams in the grind, 2 teams in the hunt, and the AFC South is still up in the air, and the Colts are still in the hunt. But when you look at that game, you look at a Texans getting just stomped by the Ravens one week, and the next week being a 3-point game against the Indianapolis Colts. It just shows you how tight this AFC South has become.
Well, here's the biggest difference to me. In the 2 games, Lamar Jackson is willing to make chances and deal with a mistake. I think Jacoby Brissett, he has very few mistakes so far this year, very few interceptions. But I don't think he's willing to take those chances down the field. And I think that that's where the difference is between Baltimore and the Colts right now when you look at how they both played the Texans. Jacoby Brissett, I think, is unwilling to take chances right now that could put the team, it could be all or nothing. And sometimes you just have to take those chances. And I don't think Jacoby's willing to take those right now. And I think that's hurt this Colts offense. You know, he had a couple of shots down the field that he missed, one to T.Y. Hilton and one to Zach Pascal that he just didn't take and threw underneath, threw a check down. He's throwing way too many check downs right now. The absence of Marlon Mack definitely hurts because although the running game was good for the Colts, there's not that threat where Marlon Mack can break one at any time. And so you had more guys, dropping in the coverage. So I'm waiting for Jacoby Brissett to start taking some chances. Will it result in 3 interceptions? It sure will, but I think the reward is better than the risk. And until he does that, and plays a little more Lamar Jackson, like not necessarily running, but just, willing to take some chances down the field, I think the Colts are going to continue to struggle.
Well, let's see what happens. I mean, certainly it's going to come down to the wire between the Colts and Texans. You would think it's going to be one of those 2 teams that win out in the AFC South and get on into the playoffs. So your Browns host the Dolphins. The Dolphins have been able to pull out a couple wins, but they're still the Dolphins, and let's face it, the Browns did beat a mediocre Pittsburgh Steelers last week, but one would think at home the Browns can manage to play this game relatively solidly, providing everybody keeps their helmet on.
Well, you would think, but ask the Colts how that worked out for them, because if you look back, if the Colts do miss the playoffs and miss the wild card by a game, how big was that Miami Dolphins loss then? So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
you know, where the Dolphins, you know, aren't a team to really take super seriously. I guess at this point for the Browns, they have to take every game seriously because now they have to basically win out. And they can't afford to lose a game, and you know, they have to do it now without their top, probably their best player overall in Myles Garrett. So now the offense is really going to be relied on to score points, whereas, you know, they've kind of let the defense keep them in games, and they've been able to run the ball and put up some points these last couple of games to win the football game. But, you know, they're going to have to rely now on the offense putting points up on the board. It's going to have to be, you know, 2006 Colts-like offense where you're going to just have to outscore the teams now, I think, to win football games. So, you know, I look for some different things on offense. I think this is a big week, a telling week for Freddie Kitchens. Now, I don't know that Jimmy Haslam and John Dorsey would shake up the team this bad, but if the Browns drop one here to the Dolphins, that seat under Freddie Kitchens' ass is going to be pretty darn hot, and he may not survive the week.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Where do we think that we are with Freddie Kitchens? So we'll see what happens there. Lions and the Redskins, not a lot to talk about here, but I would think this would be a win that the Lions both need and can get.
Well, you look how well they played last week under Jeff Driscoll. It's just you know, a couple problems here and there, but you know, if you're in the Washington area and you haven't seen an NFL game before, this would be the game to do because it's $4. You can get into the game. It's going to cost you more to park than it is to actually see the game. Tickets are available widely. There's thousands of tickets available for $4. And by game time tomorrow, they should be about $2. So if you want to see an NFL game and you haven't seen one before and you're in that area of the country, it's probably the time to do it. Now, granted, you're gonna see some crappy football, but hey, at least you get to see a game for $4. It will cost you more, Tom, to get a beer at the stadium than it will to buy the ticket to get into it.
And that's insane. And you're not going to be able to watch it on local television either because it's not sold out and it's blocked out. The Raiders at the Jets, sir.
This is an interesting game because we saw the Raiders struggle a little bit with Cincinnati, and Sam Darnold over the last couple of weeks has played some really good football. You know, so the Jets' defense has tightened up a little bit. And, you know, the Raiders are right in the hunt in the AFC West. I mean, they're right there. John Gruden has done a great job with his team with a lot of young guys and a lot of, you know, no-name guys on the football team. Derek Carr having a good season. You know, an important game for Oakland. Not as important, obviously, for the Jets because they're not really going anywhere this season. But, you know, the Jets who have started to pick it up and the Raiders who are fighting with Kansas City for the AFC West, it's going to be a good game. It's actually fun to watch Raiders football again because you never know each week who's going to do it for them because there's a different guy who's having a huge week each and every week.
Your other team, the Bears, host the Giants.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you saw the picture on Facebook or on Twitter of Mitch Trubisky somehow is ranked 34th in quarterbacks when there's only 32 teams. So that's how bad the Mitch Trubisky has played this year. He's actually ranked 34th in one category of passing when there's only 32 teams. So that means he ranks behind two guys who at least only played a quarter. So, you know, the Bears are a disaster. They pulled Mitch Trubisky out at the end of the game last week when the game's on the line. That should be as telling as it gets right there. Now, they came out and said, oh, it was a minor injury. BS. It's cover-up because they don't have faith in him anymore. They didn't have faith for him to go down and win the game. Chase Daniel threw it, was terrible as well. The Bears, it's hard to look back if you're the GM of the Chicago Bears and go, how the hell did we waste a pick to trade up to get this guy, and we could have traded down and got Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. That is something that will stick in the Bears fans' craw forever.
Well, one good thing, the Bears can look for their next quarterback down in New Orleans who take on the Panthers. A needed win for both of them, but you got to like the Saints' chances in this game.
Yeah, I do a lot. Drew Brees looked better after rebounding his second game back last week. And I think the market, honestly, the Bears might not be willing to pay what Teddy Bridgewater is going to command. I think the market for Teddy Bridgewater is going to be one of the hottest quarterback markets we've seen in a while, and it could honestly wind up being Cam Newton. That's the new quarterback of the Bears. But for me, if I'm out there and I'm looking not to draft a quarterback this year, the upside with Cam Newton I think is obviously higher than Teddy Bridgewater, but can he stay healthy? To me, this year Teddy Bridgewater proved everything he needed to prove to be a starting quarterback in the NFL again. I love Teddy Bridgewater. If you're the Saints and you've got a very aging Drew Brees, I think the Saints might be in big to keep Teddy Bridgewater around. He might become the highest paid backup in NFL history this year if the Saints figure out a way to corral him and keep him on board. When you come out and you play that well, it's almost like the Nick Foles syndrome. You think if Nick Foles would like to be paid like a starter and still be the backup in Philadelphia where he was comfortable and things worked, things worked there for him. So we'll see what happens moving forward.
Well, speaking of the Eagles, Ed Kracz, he could not make it today. His son's in town. He's got some family obligations with Thanksgiving, so he has a bye week with us this week. But the Seahawks do host the Eagles this weekend, and this is a really important win for the Eagles. Needed win for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a win if you're the Eagles. You got to get things up and going and moving. And if you're the Eagles, you got to win a big game. So make sure you get it done. If you're the Eagles this week, the Seahawks have played very well. Russell Wilson, the MVP candidate. So if you're the Eagles, you got to take care of business. And I'm ready for Carson Wentz to have that breakout game this season.
So we talked a little bit earlier today with Tony Donahue of the Tony D podcast, and the NFL's released their top running backs of all time. That list includes Jim Brown, Earl Campbell, Dutch Clark, Eric Dickerson, Lenny Moore, Marion Motley, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Gale Sayers, O.J. Simpson. Now we'll go back to that in just a second. But Emmitt Smith and Steve Van Buren, what are your thoughts on that list? Mo, are you still with us? Well, we've lost Mo. I'm not sure. Hopefully he will get back connected with him. We'll do some efforting on that. I wanted to get his thoughts on the running back list. See if we can't get him back on here. Anyway, well, that's okay. We're getting close to the end of the show. Anyway, it's about time to wrap it up. Put a bow on it. We're close to our 2-minute mark. Anyway, so he must have just dropped off somehow, some way. So I don't know. Maybe he just is also in the Millennial Falcon. So I don't know. Maybe I should. Should have put a poll up on Twitter this asked if I should binge Star Wars over the weekend or something, based on what Rick Riggin said. So take his advice. I don't know. I got a lot of things on my binge list, though. Drinking being one of them. No. Binge drinking. 917-889-8516 is our digits. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. Again, we're all over Twitter and Facebook. Go to our Facebook page, search The Balance, and hit follow or hit like. And again, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or anywhere you get your podcast, thank you so much. Do us a quick little favor. It helps us keep track of everything. If you go on there and rate our podcast and give it the 4 stars and tell everybody how awesome that I am, because I already know, because I'm on loan from God, but just so that the rest of the world knows what a cool show this is, and that would be greatly appreciated. Still trying to effort to get Mo back on. I don't see that that's going to happen. So we are running out of time. Time to wrap it up and put a bow on it. We do this thing called The Balance every single Saturday morning between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. So give us a listen. Give us an ear. I hope you have a good Thanksgiving. Hope everybody's time with their families are all together. And, sometimes when families get together, it's like, we all have that. That's for sure. But hopefully you all have a good Thanksgiving. My name is Tom Marcos, El Presidente. Don't drink and drive. It isn't cool. I'm out of here. Deuces.
Join us next week for The Balance. In the meantime, check us out on Twitter, T-Balance, or Facebook, The Balance, or online at www.thebalanceonline.com.